Hello, people. Today we will talk about Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson was the 7th President of the United States, 1829-1837, and a pivotal figure in American politics during the early 19th century. Known for his fiery personality, military achievements, and populist appeal, Jackson left a significant and often controversial legacy, which includes his advocacy for Jacksonian democracy and his policies toward Native Americans. He remains a complex figure, praised for expanding democracy and criticized for his role in the forced removal of Native Americans. Andrew Jackson was born in the Waxhaws region on the border between North and South Carolina to Irish immigrants of modest means. Orphaned by the age of 14, Jackson had a difficult childhood, losing his family during the Revolutionary War. He grew up with a fierce sense of independence and resilience, traits that would define his life. Jackson received little formal education, but trained in law in Salisbury, North Carolina, before moving to the Tennessee frontier. There, he quickly gained prominence as a lawyer, judge, and land speculator. He became wealthy through land investments and in 1796 helped draft the Tennessee Constitution, which led to his election as the state's first U.S. representative. Jackson's rise to national prominence came through his military service, particularly during the War of 1812. As a general in the Tennessee militia, Jackson led forces against Native American tribes allied with the British, culminating in the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, 1814, which broke the power of the Creek Nation. His most famous victory came in the Battle of New Orleans in January 1815, where his troops defeated a much larger British force. Although the battle occurred after the signing of the Treaty of Ghent, which had officially ended the war, news had not yet reached the battlefield. The victory made Jackson a national hero and earned him the nickname Old Hickory for his toughness and resilience. Following his military success, Jackson entered politics and ran for president in 1824. The election was highly contentious, with no candidate receiving a majority of the electoral votes. The contest was decided by the House of Representatives, where John Quincy Adams was chosen as president, despite Jackson winning the popular and electoral votes. Jackson and his supporters decried this as a corrupt bargain, accusing Adams and Henry Clay, the Speaker of the House, of striking a political deal. This controversy fueled Jackson's campaign for the presidency in 1828, where he ran as a populist champion of the common man against the elitism of Adams and the political establishment. Jackson's election in 1828 marked the beginning of a new era in American politics, often referred to as Jacksonian democracy. Jackson expanded the electorate by advocating for the right to vote for all white male citizens, regardless of property ownership, which was a significant departure from previous norms. His presidency emphasized the principle of majority rule and a more direct form of democracy. Jackson also sought to reduce the power of the federal government over economic matters, which aligned with his belief in limited government and individual liberty. However, his policies often benefited the southern and western states at the expense of the industrializing North and the Native American populations. One of the most significant events of Jackson's presidency was the Bank War, a political struggle over the future of the Second Bank of the United States. Jackson believed the national bank was a tool of the wealthy elite and that it wielded too much power over the economy. In 1832, he vetoed the bill to renew the bank's charter, asserting that it was unconstitutional and harmful to the liberties of ordinary Americans. Jackson's opposition to the bank, led by its president Nicholas Biddle, resulted in the eventual dissolution of the institution. His decision to withdraw federal deposits from the bank and place them in state pet banks caused economic instability and contributed to the Panic of 1837, a financial crisis that severely impacted the U.S. economy after his presidency. One of the most controversial aspects of Jackson's presidency was his policy toward Native Americans. Jackson was a staunch advocate of westward expansion and believed that Native Americans stood in the way of American progress. His solution was to forcibly relocate native tribes from their ancestral lands to territory west of the Mississippi River. In 1830, Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, which authorized the federal government to negotiate land exchange treaties with Native American tribes. This policy led to the forced relocation of tens of thousands of Native Americans, including the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole tribes, along what became known as the Trail of Tears. The journey was marked by extreme hardship, and thousands of Native Americans died during the forced marches. Jackson justified the policy as a way to protect Native Americans from extinction, but his actions are now widely condemned as a form of ethnic cleansing. The Trail of Tears remains one of the darkest chapters in American history. Another major event of Jackson's presidency was the Nullification Crisis, 1832-1833, a confrontation between the federal government and the state of South Carolina over the issue of tariffs. South Carolina, led by Jackson's vice president, John C. Calhoun, declared that it had the right to nullify, invalidate federal laws that it believed were unconstitutional, specifically the Tariff of 1828, also called the Tariff of Abominations, which favored northern manufacturers at the expense of southern planters. Jackson, despite his belief in states' rights, took a firm stand against nullification, arguing that it threatened the Union. He secured the passage of the Force Bill, which authorized him to use military force to enforce federal laws. The crisis was eventually resolved through a compromise tariff negotiated by Henry Clay, but it highlighted the growing sectional tensions between North and South. Jackson's personal life was marked by tragedy and controversy. He married Rachel Donaldson Robards in 1794, but their marriage was marred by accusations of bigamy because Rachel had not yet finalized her divorce from her first husband. This scandal became a point of attack during Jackson's campaigns, and Rachel's death in 1828, just before Jackson took office, deeply affected him. He blamed his political enemies for her death, believing the stress of the campaign had contributed to it. Jackson was also a slave owner throughout his life, and his plantation, the Hermitage in Tennessee, was worked by hundreds of enslaved people. His ownership of slaves, combined with his Indian removal policies, complicates his legacy in modern evaluations of his role in American history. After serving 2 terms, Jackson retired to his plantation, the Hermitage, near Nashville, Tennessee, in 1837. He remained a significant figure in Democratic Party politics, advising his successors, including Martin Van Buren, on policy matters. His health deteriorated in his later years due to chronic illnesses. Jackson died on June 8, 1845, at the age of 78, and was buried at the Hermitage. Andrew Jackson's legacy is one of profound contradictions. On one hand, he is celebrated for his role in expanding democracy by advocating for broader participation in politics and for his defense of the Union during the Nullification Crisis. His presidency is often seen as the origin of the modern Democratic Party, and his populist appeal reshaped American politics by emphasizing the power of the common man. On the other hand, Jackson's policies toward Native Americans, including the Indian Removal Act and the Trail of Tears, have left a lasting stain on his legacy. His support for slavery and his aggressive use of executive power, particularly in the Bank War, have also drawn significant criticism. Jackson's influence is still felt in American political discourse, and his face remains on the U.S. $20 bill, though there have been calls to replace him with figures who better reflect the nation's values of equality and justice. Honors and memorials, Jackson Square in New Orleans, and numerous counties, towns, and schools across the U.S. are named in his honor. His plantation, the Hermitage, is now a museum dedicated to his life and presidency. Jackson's military and political achievements are commemorated in various statues and monuments, though they are often the subject of debate given his controversial policies. I ask you to like the video, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.